Hi, folks, and welcome to our Sunday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, and I have going down my list of old Samoflange ideas. I don't know who came up with this one, and this one I'm going to review really quick. I may do two, maybe three today. I don't know. One is really quick, though. But first, I want to say something. My neighborhood is filled with people who have been here since the place got developed in 1987. The whole subdivision did, and it's on the edge of town, and it's basically in a little cul-de-sac that not many people realize is out here. It's surrounded by trees, but they made just a neighborhood of about, I don't know, five blocks. I don't know how many blocks it is. I want to say like there's 5 blocks or 6 blocks here of just people living out here. The mayor even lives out here because it's really nice. But there's a lot of really old people and then really younger people like me, because the old people keep dying off. In fact, my neighbor two houses down told me, she's like, yep, it's just either us really old people in our 80s, their 80s, 90s, or late 70s. And then they're newer or younger people because the older people keep dying. The original people keep dying. But the older ladies here are really funny. Just to give you an idea, Miss Susan, she used to go big on decorations for Halloween and Christmas. And over the past 2 years, she said she's just getting too old to put all them decorations out. And she is younger. She's in her 70s. We had another guy, 95. His wife was 92. She just recently passed away, and he decided to check himself into an old folks home. I've never heard of old person doing that, but he decided he wanted to. No harm, no foul. It's fine. He just figured that, he doesn't want to live in the house by himself, and he's kind of afraid, what would happen if someone wasn't there to watch over me? But he basically watched over his wife, really. And so he just finally moved out. The house has been emptied. I got to see it during I think I talked about this. Someone's wife has passed away, and I went to their, one of my podcasts I talked about this. I went to their estate sale, just selling off what they could, and it was kind of sad. I didn't like seeing people rummaging through people's closets, digging through their clothes. I had a problem with that, so I had to leave. But they did have a beautiful house, and we talked to them every Halloween, actually. We talked to the lady. He was usually just inside watching TV, but we talked to her. We never went inside, though, but I bet they had a bar and a nice little lit backdrop of glass baubles and whatnot, and I bet they would have been very interesting to talk to and get to know. But oh well. C'est la vie, as they say. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is I have another lady. She's 78, and she keeps telling me she's so old. She don't want to be treated like an old person, though. Oh boy, she does not like to be called an old person or that she needs anything or that she needs help. But she keeps talking about how old she is. And I try to remind her, say, well, remember, you're not that old. That's what you keep telling me. And but someone got called in. Someone called an ambulance, and of course I was walking the kids, so it didn't matter to me. So I was just kind of in the neighborhood, but I saw it and I was like, oh, well, I'll check this out, And so did my 78-year-old neighbor, and a 63-year-old young whippersnapper neighbor also checked it out. We were all saying hello. First time I'd ever met the 63-year-old. And we were talking about it. The lady's name is Miss Mary, who had called for 911 because she wasn't feeling well. It was just low blood pressure. Her grandson, who lives thankfully right around the corner, was just telling us, hey, grandma's okay. She just had a little scare there, but they're okay. They got her back to normal. We were all happy and, kind of talking. And I said, I've seen her all the time. She's driving around. He's like, yeah, we're trying to get her not to drive anymore. I said, oh, yeah, she's getting up there. He's like, yeah, she's 95. She doesn't need to be driving anymore. I was like, whoa, 95. She lives alone, and she drives her own car. I've seen her. And then one lady said earlier this summer, she knocked on the neighbor's door and said, hey, I'm going to the store. I know you, because one of the other neighbors, Kenda is her name, Miss Kenda. She's 78. She had surgery on her foot. I don't think she broke her foot, but I think she had to get surgery on her foot or ankle or something. And Miss Mary, 95 years old, called her and said, hey, I'm going to the store. Can I pick you up anything? And she was sure. But even Kenda told me that she had no idea, and they want me to call them by their first names. Do not call them. She hates when I say miss. I know it aggravates her. They all want me to call them by their first, like 63-year-old, her name is Kathy. Do not call her Mrs. Turner or whatever. You got to call her by her first name. And Miss Mary was the same way. She just called me Mary. And but we didn't know how old she was. I surely didn't know, but even Kendra didn't know. And, like, wow, that's crazy. So, of course, the subject of age came up. And my little girls are with me because I'm pushing them around the neighborhood. I always like to push them around. The 63-year-old, the girls start getting out. They start doing cheers, because they did some cheerleading at the local high school recently in the rain. That's exactly what I want to do, is spend a rainy day watching my kids jump up and down the field for 2 minutes during halftime. Glad we stayed the whole time. Anyway, but they're doing cheers because they're still on a high over that. And the lady goes, she goes, yeah, can y'all do the splits? No, my kids can't do the splits. And so they're trying. Then 63-year-old Kathy goes, no, like this, and just drops and split. I almost jumped. I was like, just flopped down on the road, bam, split. Oh no, she was in a driveway, but still concrete, bam, did the splits. I was like, are you okay? She went, I'm fine. And then got right up on her own. 63 years old, you doing the splits. Keeps in good shape, I guess. But you wouldn't, like you'd see her, like she's a smoker. Not that that means you're unhealthy, but I could just see that she's the lady who smokes, probably drinks a ton of Diet Cokes. She's thin, but some older ladies are thin and whatnot, but I didn't know she was doing the splits and everything. That reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother's 88 years old and could do the splits at 88. She stopped teaching. Wait, was it 88 or 78? I don't want to exaggerate. No, I think it was 88. I think she retired from teaching because she died when she was right before she was 96. So I think she lived in our neighborhood, or she moved over to our city. She lived in Alabama by herself, and then taught ballet till she was 88, retired at 88 or 87, then moved over here for the rest of her life, which ended up being 8 years. Would have been longer too, but she had a big tumor, non-cancerous. But at that point when they had found it, she was 94, 95, and they said, you're just too, like, it's a pretty big tumor, and it'd be a pretty big surgery to recover from. You are 95, and they didn't think that she could survive surgery, so they just let it grow until it basically kind of popped her insides, which not the nicest thing. But without that tumor, she probably still would have been alive at 100 something. But she was moving around without a cane. She could walk on her own. She'd hold your hand going down steps or going up steps, but she walked without a cane, got up on her own and everything. She was a go-getter. But that just doing that ballet for till she was 88, that's what kept her in shape. Now, I don't think she could do the splits at 96, or she died just a month before, let me see, August. Yeah, a month before she was her 96th birthday. But at 95, she was moving around, but not doing no splits. But 63 years old, just flopped down the driveway. That threw me for a loop. Anyway, I've got some interesting neighbors, man. Interesting neighbors. All right. So anyway, moving on. This one is, I don't know who put this up here. I want to say this list is so old. I'm almost positive I did this with CJ and Mikey, and I just put down tons of ideas. We used to just, after every podcast, we just write down several ideas. And during podcasts, I would write down ideas. And this is one that I did not want to do, but kept it in there anyway, if I recall. But it's top 5 emojis that we use. And I was like, I don't know, and emojis weren't that big a deal with me. Now I use them here and there. I don't know which ones I use the most though, but I did put the ones that I use. There's one I say for special occasions. If my wife asks me, where am I? And I'm in the bathroom, I'm putting the poop emoji. And when people say they're coming over for game night, I do the party emoji followed by the poop emoji and then say, excuse me, I got too excited there. Haha. The joke continues. But anyway, I do a lot of thumbs up, the smiling teeth, the crying, laughing face, and the eye roll. I do the eye roll a lot. So those are my favorite ones. In fact, I'm trying to think of any other ones I've ever used. Not many. Even though there was a time when I was trying to use different emojis that don't get used on your phone. I was trying to use every single emoji with my wife. My wife's like, "Why'd you use that emoji? Or what's that?" Because I thought, wow, there's a lot of emojis. Do people use what's an odd emoji that you use that most people don't? I was in a vampire show and I would put vampire emoji sometimes, but that's not really, that was just for a thing. I don't know what any odd ones I would use, but do you have an odd emoji that you use that not many people use? I wish I had something that I did like that, but I really don't. Let's see. So that's it for emojis. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that one. I think the reason this would not have been one of my picks. This is probably something that CJ or Mikey put on there that I wrote down for them. So, but they're not here anymore. They're not hosts anymore. Even though I do see CJ quite often, and his open time is on Saturdays and Sundays, which is my two busiest times of the week because I'm usually watching babies all by myself while the missus is off at the theater. Anyway, which one of these do I want to talk about? Man, these are both great, but I'm going to go with comedians. Now that my list, if I would have wrote it down years ago, 10 years ago, it would have changed from what I have now because there's a list of comedians that I would add and switch around differently. In fact, there's two comedians that don't even make the top 5 anymore for me, and 2 that have replaced them. And then these 3 probably would have been in there. And I did rank these. The newest one to my list, I ranked last because he is new to me at least. Tony Hinchcliffe. He is from the YouTube show Kill Tony. He is an insult comic. He is very dirty, not safe for kids. But his insults can be really funny at times. He was at Tom Brady's roast. That's probably the most famous he ever was, unless you watch Kill Tony. Kill Tony, he'll give audience members or, amateur comedians 1 minute to come up and do his quick bit. And if they make him laugh, maybe you got a job to come back again and do some more comedy stand-up. If not, he'll just roast you for an additional 10, 15 minutes. And he's very witty. He's very funny. And it reminds me of, and Wes from Prince of the Universe is going to laugh at this. It reminds me of us at Cards, Coins, and Collectibles. We used to sit there and rag on each other. Wes and I have reminisced about this several times on the podcast before, but we would rag on each other. He always ragged about, my hair, my clothes, a lot because I didn't really dress up that much. I wore the same, just t-shirts and whatnot. And he was on to looking nice. And my hair, I just got a regular cut, and he wanted me to get a Caesar cut. We were just laughing about that not too long ago, a couple of weeks back. How he used to pay for me to get a Caesar cut because that was the cool kid's cut, and I didn't like it. But if he was going to pay for it, then I didn't have to pay to get my hair cut, so I was fine with that. I used to go to Master Cuts in the mall and get my hair cut. And Westwood got so mad because I get it cut just the same normal way. He's like, "Ja, cuckoo. I mean, you don't get nothing yet. Is that the haircut you're happy with?" I went, "Yes, it's the haircut I've always had." "I mean, what about the Caesar cut? You should think about doing that. You look good in the Caesar cut, cuckoo." And I'm like, I don't care about that. I don't like sideburns. "You don't like side? No. If you get the Caesar cut, I'll pay for it." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't want to pay for nothing." So I do it. And but that was a lot of fun though back in those days. But we'd rag each other. I'd rag him. We talk about his big head, which is not big, but we'd laugh about it. And then him always eating tuna and shaving his arms and legs. He always used to shave his arms and legs. I used to make fun of him. And then his tuna, he'd dump his empty tuna can, the trash. It would smell so bad. When I had to close at night and take out the trash, it'd be this awful tuna smell. He still laughs at that, still thinks that's funny. But I'd laugh at him just eating straight tuna. He'd eat straight tuna every day. Every day. He was all about eating, strict eating, I guess. That tuna was everywhere, man. That's some dedication there. But when I watch Kill Tony, I see the insults coming in. I just remember all the good times we had jabbing. Everyone got picked on. And of course, our friend Fred loved to dish it out, but hated when it was his turn to start getting roasted. He'd get so mad and defensive and angry, and we're like, dude, You want to dish it out, but you cannot take it, man. You are such a big baby when it comes to that. And he always was like that. He loved dishing on other people. He loved trashing other people. When it came back to him, no, dog, don't do that. That ain't funny. I don't play that way. So, dude, you were just making fun of all of us, and we were all laughing. Do you not? I mean, he was so ignorant to the fact that we're all having a good time, you know? In fact, if he would have rolled with it, I think we would have loved Fred. You know, we're not big Fred fans because this guy ran us off because he was getting just too intense, too hostile around me. And I decided to say, you know what, it's not worth being around this dude anymore. And I left. And maybe I should have stood up for myself. Maybe I should have stood up to Fred and said, why don't you leave? You know, whatnot. And probably maybe report to Wayne. I have no idea what Wayne would have done. Maybe not schedule us together again. I don't know. But that's kind of unavoidable on Saturdays because we were usually all working together. But either way, though, the good times we had, ragging on each other all the time. We went heavy. We went hard. Our other friend, Brandon, we'd rag on him a lot because he had a girlfriend named Stacy, and nothing ever seemed to go right with him and Stacy. And then for some reason, Wes would rag on her for being homeschooled, but I was homeschooled, and he never ragged on me for being homeschooled. But he'd rag on Brandon. I guess because it got to Brandon. Maybe, never mind. I know exactly why Wes did it then. Because it doesn't embarrass me. You say, oh, yeah, homeschool there. And I'm like, yeah, baby. You know, if it's not going to affect me. But if it really got under your skin, we'd, of course, press the button. But a lot of times, we were just ragging one another for fun. And it was good times. And that's what killed Tony. Sometimes reminds me of that just ragging culture. He does get a little mean. But at the same time, again, not PC either. Tony Hitchcock, not PC. But rather funny gentleman. So that's why I rank him numero 5. Number 2... And number 4, excuse me. Number 4 is Jeff Dunham. Jeff Dunham, some people, you either love him or you hate him. He's the puppet guy. My wife loves him. We watch shows together. I'll be honest, he feels kind of samey his last 2 specials. I don't know if he has any more specials, but we'll always watch them together. We've been to one of his shows live. He is really funny. He does a lot of the same bits, of course. But I got to be ragged and roasted on stage live by Peanut during a show one time. He picked me out in the crowd, just basically roasted me in front of everyone. I was having a great time. My wife was really having a good time that I was getting roasted. And then later on, they thanked me for being a good sport and brought me my own little Ahmed doll, puppet doll, which I still have today. Or no, never mind. He's lost. Oh no, I forgot. Someone borrowed him years ago and I haven't got him back. Oh no. So I guess he's gone now. I don't have him anymore. So sad times there. But I remember someone borrowed him and I never got him back now that I think about it. But I was afraid that was going to happen. But either way, doesn't matter. All that matters is it was a lot of fun. And my favorite Jeff Dunham character used to be Ahmed back in the day, but now Walter is freaking hilarious. I need to check and see if Jeff Dunham's done something new. Because I like his puppets. They're all kind of funny in one way or the other. And I like that my wife loves Peanut. That's her favorite. Her cousin loves Bubba, the hillbilly. And, of course, a lot of people like Ahmed. So it's like everyone loves someone, one of his puppets there. His newer ones haven't really hit well. But either way, though, he's just very fun. There's some very funny stuff with Jeff Dunham. Again, he's a love him, hate him kind of comedian. And here's the thing. He does jokes on his own. Like he does his own little stand-up bit before the puppets come out. And the thing is, he's not that good at delivery. I don't think so. When he's a ventriloquist, he's on. But doing his own jokes, they just don't seem to hit as hard, or they're not as funny as, most comedians can just be funny just by their look or how they deliver things. But he's just like delivering lines and trying to be funny. It's like he's trying. So it's a good thing he's a ventriloquist, or he would have to get a new job somewhere. But he's a darn good ventriloquist, and, I love him for it. I think he's super funny. But by the way, no honorable mentions here. No honorable mentions. Number 3 is easy. It's the late, great Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald, I always found hilarious. On Saturday Night Live, during their heyday in the 90s, early 90s, I thought Norm was great. And I remember, if I remember right, it may have been me and Wes or someone at Cards, Coins, Collectibles. We talk about Saturday Night Live the next week, and we would always laugh. No, it wasn't at Cards and Coins. I know who it was. A buddy, one of my high school buddies. We would always talk about, because we were in college back then, but we'd call each other. He'd come in on the weekend, and here we go. Hey man, did you see Saturday Night Live? Did you see Norm? And we thought Norm Macdonald was just hilarious. Just the way he carried himself, the way he did the news. I don't think anyone did it better than Norm. No one did it better than Norm. I remember, I think it was Chevy Chase said Norm Macdonald, besides Chevy Chase, Norm Macdonald was the only one that delivered the news good. It was either that or Dennis Miller. I can't remember. I like Dennis Miller too, delivering it. But Norm was hilarious. And anytime he went into a skit, he just played the same, in my opinion, he just played the same character over and over again, but it was funny because I just thought he was funny. Watching his stand-up, I used to watch it all the time on YouTube, and I thought he was funny. I was a big Conan O'Brien fan back in the day, and of course, Norm was a regular, and I always thought he was funny. I just always laughed. And the documentary of Norm Macdonald, I think it's called I Am Norm, where it was during the pandemic, he was supposed to do a special. Well, Norm didn't tell anyone he was dying of cancer, but he asked Netflix if he could just record it on a stream for them. Now, the footage is just him on his computer, on a webcam, doing the whole bit without an audience. But the real reason he wanted to do it is because he knew he didn't have that long to live. And he was getting sicker. And so I think that's really why I wanted to do it. And he even made little jokes about cancer and dying and stuff like that. Just little inside jokes that no one would get until years, after his death. And of course, his death caught everyone by surprise, me too. But I was more shocked when I found out that no one knew he was dying, and how it really rocked the comedian world. And I think Conan O'Brien said it best. He was a comedian's comedian. I mean, comedians would laugh at Norm. They really thought Norm was the best because Norm would do stuff that only comedians would get backstage. He would bomb on stage on purpose just to make the comedians backstage laugh at how bad he was doing, and they knew he was doing it on purpose. But Norm was great. He was extremely witty. There's a lot of great stories. The I Am Norm, I think that's what it's called, documentary is fantastic. Dave Chappelle, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, David Spade, I think, are all in it, and just telling good stories about him. I think Adam Sandler's in it too, talking about what it was like to be around Norm and life around Norm and what he was like. And man, I remember when he got fired from SNL. I remember that big thing, and I knew he was going to get fired. Everyone knew he was going to get fired because they knew the tension. You'd read the tabloids about the tension with him doing the OJ jokes, which were so funny. They were so funny, especially when he goes, the glove. The joke was, to which OJ replied, "Hey, that's my stabbing glove." I still think it's funny, but either way, Norm Macdonald was a character. When he got fired, he did that movie. What was it called? Dirty Work. I went and saw that in theaters. I thought it was hilarious. I still think that movie's funny. I remember I bought it on VHS when it came out. We would watch it all the time. My cousin would laugh. There's still some lines we quote from Dirty Work, me and my cousin. And like one of them, when life is at its worst, there's always beer. Note to self, when life is on... And my cousin loves that quote. Quotes it all the time while he's drinking a beer. But it is just such a great movie. And Dave Chappelle told a story where he didn't want to do it. He was having a rough time at the moment, and Norm Macdonald kind of kept his head in the movie and said, "Hey man, let's finish this out. Let's do this." And I didn't know Norm and Dave were so close, and Dave has a lot of respect for Norm Macdonald. But either way, though, now when Norm died, there was this renaissance. Like everyone was watching Norm Macdonald stand up. Everyone, even people who didn't really watch his stand up previously, watch his stuff on YouTube. He was trending so hard months after his death because people were rediscovering how funny he was And now a lot of people appreciate his humor. And they say nice things about him now. And which is nice because he was kind of a forgotten, and man, his talk show was super funny too. I didn't watch every episode, but I'd catch him every once in a while, and I would always laugh. Norm Macdonald was a funny, funny gentleman. Number 2 is Dave Chappelle for obvious reasons. It's Dave Chappelle. Everyone cracked up at the Chappelle show. I never I can't remember the word. I lost the word now. I would never dream that would be as funny as it was. And it is hilarious. And then his stand-up afterwards is really good. Really, really good. I can't quote some of my favorite jokes he does because he's off the cuff. And he's always been hilarious. And he's always been funny. And he's always been zany. And he's always been chill, it seems like. And so I thought I'd make him my number 1. I'll be honest. I thought I'd make him my number 1. But the more I thought about it, this guy was on my original list at number 1. And I thought, well, Dave Chappelle's funnier. But then I said, who do I quote the most? What comedian do I quote the most? And that is by far, hands down, Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg died years ago. I was part of his, I think, second to the last show he did was on our college campus. Then he did the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and then he died that night in New York, if I recall. But right before his stop to New York, he told us he was about to do the Tonight Show, and he wanted to test some jokes out on us. Mitch Hedberg was just ultra dry, odd humor, and it was right up my alley. Right up my alley. And me and my whole family, we quote his jokes all the time. He said, bananas are the opposite of stoplights. When you see a yellow banana, that means go. He said the direct opposite. He said, when you see a green banana, you say, hold up. And if you see a red banana, you say, hey, man, where'd you get that red banana? I can't even deliver that to make it sound funny, but the way he delivered it was funny every time. Funny every time. It was so good. All of his jokes were just incredibly funny. He killed at the college. And I remember someone asked for one of my buddies was shouting out being a jerk, tell the something something joke. And he said, F you and F that joke. No, I'm just kidding. That is a good joke, isn't it? But F you still the same. And everyone just started laughing. And this guy was just he had long hair, tinted glasses, reading glasses, and had a 70s vibe about him. But the way he taught, and just look up his humor, watch his stuff. He is so funny. He is safe for work too. But he was so funny, and just the jokes were so odd and out there. It just made you laugh. I remember the first time I think my brother turned me and said, have you heard this Mitch Hedberg? And gave me his CD. Because I used to have both of his CDs. And my brother bought it first and thought it was hilarious. I don't know how he heard about him. But then I remember those CDs spread like wildfire. And we were all listening. I rarely bought comedy CDs. But Mitch Hedberg's I bought all the time. I think I bought Dane Cook's when it came out. One of his big ones back in the day that I thought was funny. And then Adam Sandler's I used to buy. Because no one else would buy it, but we all wanted to listen to it. So I had to go ahead and buy them. But yeah. Oh, man. Mitch Hedberg, easily my number 1. Like he said, he saw a sign that said, guess how many jelly beans in a jar, win $100. And I'm like, hey, man, how about you just give me some? Guess how many I want. If you guessed a handful, you are correct. And or I like eating rice. It's satisfying to eat 1,000,000 things in one meal, or 1,000 of one thing in one meal. And I mean, again, I'm killing the jokes are just lame when it comes out of my mouth. But the way it's about your delivery, it's about the character you want to be on stage, and he played it solid. It was excellent. Okay, so that's enough time. I can save the next discussion for later. That's probably going to be a 30-minute on its own because that's a pretty big topic. The third one was. But there you go. Comedians and emojis. For this one, what is your favorite comedian? Tell me who is or was your favorite comedian of all time. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.